Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Cambridge Veritas. This lesson, as you have seen, the theme is IELTS writing, making comparisons the right way. Now, you must be wondering, where do you end up making comparisons? Predominantly, you end up making comparisons in IELTS writing task 1, correct? Academic category. And sometimes you do end up making comparisons in IELTS writing task 2 as well, which is the essay. But the kind of examples that we're going to be looking at today predominantly caters to IELTS writing task 1. So without further ado, let's get started. What do we have in this lesson? By the end of this lesson, you will understand 6 types of comparison structures that will help you get band 9. I know it may seem like an impossible task, uh, but the idea is to understand what are those structures that help us score better. We also have live practice, so I'm going to be looking at we're going to be looking at together 8 sentences. So make sure as you participate, as you watch the lesson, you also participate in the comments as well. And then finally, there's going to be a little bit of teeny weeny assignment towards the end. So shall we get started? Let's begin. Now, before we start today's lesson, I want to give you 2 simple examples on the screen. Please have a look. Sentence A: the rate of union membership rose to 26.2%, comparing to 25.8% last year. Sentence A. And then there's sentence B, with not a major difference between the both of them. The rate of union members rose to 26.2% compared to 25.8% last year. In your opinion, which sentence do you think is right? I repeat, which sentence do you think is right in terms of the comparison that is being made here? So allow me to draw your attention here. Have a look. The first one is comparing to, okie dokie. And the second one is compared to. Now, if you found your answer, wonderful. The correct answer in this case is B. And I want to draw this to your attention. A lot of the students write like this, comparing to, and this is something that you have to avoid. Why do we do that? The rest of the lesson is all about it. We're going to be looking at that. There's another example I want to show you. Have a look. Both the sentences are same, but then there's only one thing that is different. The figure is now 3 times higher as compare to 1965. So is it as compared to versus than? Now, some people may say that, well, hello, both are right, but actually not. There's only one that is right. There's a very categorical grammatical error in the first one, and a lot of students end up writing that like that, which is as compared to. It is not right. The passive form would be as compared to. So the correct version again is B. So, what are the most common errors that students end up making? I repeat, what are the most common errors? In the next 6 slides, I'm going to show you 6 different examples of the most common errors that students make. Your task is, when you're watching the lesson, try writing, maybe pause the lesson, and try writing what you think is the correct version of it, either on a rough sheet of paper or in the comments below, just so that you're in sync and you're able to see how you would put it correctly and what in fact is the correct answer. Are you guys ready? Shall we start? Here we go. So have a look. The first type of comparison is in this format, where the word compare is more like a verb. Okay. And with this word, you always use to or with something. So basically, you compare to something or compare with something. Now, let me show you the incorrect or the wrong sentence. The graph compares the crime rates in Japan and US. This is such a common mistake. Now, I want you to pause the lesson here, pause the video, and write or type what do you think is the correct form. I'm now going to show you what the correct form is. The right way is the graph compares the crime rates in Japan and the US to each other or with each other. So the problem with this sentence is that there's a very clear miss basically of the two words, either of the two words, which is to or with. So there's something to note here, and I want you to keep this explanation in your mind. So, number one is when you compare x versus y, x to y, there are two ways to say it, either compare x to y or compare x with y, when the subject is actively doing comparing. So the idea is never write like this: the graph compares the crime rates. It's incorrect. The correct version is the graph compares the crime rates, and then the two countries come to each other or with each other. So this is the complete format, and this one is the incomplete format. But what does to show here? Have a look. Here, to highlights similarities. And on the other hand, when you say sort of with, it suggests analyzing the difference. So whatever you're talking about, the word changes according to the meaning that you want to give in reference to whatever the data is given on writing task one, whatever question that there is. Okay? So this was type 1. Now let's look at type number 2. Type 2 is, the last one was compares. Have a look. The last one was compare to or with something. This one is compared to or with, which is the passive form. So the wrong version is women's income rose 31%, comparing to only 13% for men. Now, what I'd like you to do is pause, take a moment. What do you think is correct? Because the women here in this sentence are not doing it right now, and the students using ing, which is a very common error. So, what's the correct form? The correct or the right sentence is women's income rose 13% compared to only 13% for men, or compared with only 13% for men. All right? Extremely important. You may think that do students that are making these errors when it comes to writing, they may have a different lingo with which or vocabulary, or they may be a little more cognizant and aware of how they speak, but when it comes to writing, it's a completely different ball game. So I want you to remember this. When you talk about passives, have a look. When you talk about passive forms, the right format would be compared to when you're describing a completed comparison. It's not happening right now, because comparing to, on the other hand, is in fact used when it is happening in the moment of speaking. So a sentence for that would be, when comparing the data, we noticed. Okay? So this is the difference between the two, and make sure you do not say comparing to, because it is not in the moment of speaking. The passive form would be the right version in this case. So this is type 2 and the most common mistake that students make. Okay. Moving on. Type 3, please have a look. Now, type 3 here is in comparison. Okay. Again, the same thing, in comparison to something or in comparison with something. Incorrect sentence is US workers get little holiday in comparison than Europeans. In comparison then? It is an absolutely incorrect phrase. The correct version is US workers get little holiday in comparison with or in comparison to their European counterparts. I've been teaching IELTS for the last 15 years. In my 15 years of experience, Even the most proficient speakers of English end up messing it in writing. And because of that, the examiner reduces your band, and again, you have to sit for the IELTS writing test. And that's just absolutely worse when, because of one mistake, your band gets reduced. And this is something that you have to bear in mind. And what is it? We do not say in comparison then. Have a look. In comparison then is 100% incorrect. It is in comparison with or to, depending on the context that you want to set based on the data that is provided. All right. So, one more time, in comparison to or with shows contrast. On the other hand, we use to or with after it. We never use the word than after it. So, never say in comparison than. If you're learning something new, show me a big thumbs up on the lesson. And let's move on to type number 4. Here we go. Now, this is my favorite because here you're using phrasal verb. Draw a comparison or make a comparison. So far better than just saying compared to, in comparison with, la de la de la. Yeah? So unique, as a matter of fact. So, again, we use it to compare sort of two things, correct? So either you say draw a comparison between A and B, or you say make a comparison between A and B. Let me show you the incorrect or the wrong sentence. We can make a comparison to these two countries. What do you think is the right form? Do we say make a comparison to, or do we say make a comparison between? The correct sentence is we make a comparison between these two countries. So the next time you want to go up a notch, you can say make a comparison between, or make a comparison or draw a comparison between. But never, ladies and gentlemen, watching right now, never say make a comparison to or draw a comparison to. Once again, what is the reason? Let's have a look at it. We categorically use the word between after using the phrase draw or make a comparison. And why is that? Because you're comparing two or more things. So to talk about the amalgamation among them, you use the word between. All right? Try making a sentence with it because it's a very interesting form. Try making a sentence with it in the comments below. I really like this one. And your band sort of goes immediately. It jumps to another level the moment you sort of make this combination. Because while the rest of the 90% of the people would write, make a comparison, compared to, etc., you chose a different vocabulary and you say, draw a comparison. Okie dokie. Let's move to number 5, second last. Here we go. So, comparative adjective. What are comparative adjectives? So, in case you do not know what are comparative adjectives, so for example, words that end in er, they're called comparative adjectives, or words that begin with more. So, for example, higher is ending in er. It is called a comparative adjective, or we also call them comparatives. More could be, let's say, more interesting. So both of these words are called comparative adjectives. Let me show you the incorrect sentence first. The figure is 3 times higher as compared to 1965. The moment you use the word comparative adjective, So, what is the comparative adjective in this sentence? The comparative adjective in this sentence is higher. So, whenever you use words with either er or more, I'm going to tell you a very important and a very secretive tip. And that secretive tip is after these kinds of words, er or more, just simply use the word than. I repeat, simply use the word than. You do not have to say as compared to. Very common mistake, very common slip. So the correct sentence is the figure is 3 times higher than 1965. Yeah. So the next time when you see words like higher, lower, more, bigger, they're all comparative adjectives. We call them comparatives. And with them, we always use than. The idea is we want to avoid, particularly, the use of as compared to, because it is incorrect. It's grammatically unfit in any form for that matter. So there's no such structure as compared to. All right. And I think we've elucidated that before in a lot of other sentences as well. Now let's have a look at the last one. Ready? The last one is here we go. Whenever you see words like double, half, triple, with these words, we should always use that of immediately after it, not compared to. A lot of students write like this, and it is grammatically incorrect. Britain's population density is double compared to China. Incorrect, incorrect, incorrect. Whenever you use words like double, half, triple, etc., with these kinds of words, you always use that of. One more time. Hello, bello, repeat after me. With these words, you always use when you're comparing that of, not compared to. Even that is wrong here. So the correct version is, can you guess what is the correct version? All right, so the correct version is, here we go. Britain's population density is double that of China. So I'm using the word double. Have a look. I'm using the word double, picking it from here, and immediately after that, I'm using that of. So it is that of. All right. What should we keep in mind here? When we use that of, we're basically trying to compare the same kind of thing. For example, that here refers to density, and of China basically is talking about China's density for that matter. So, what are we doing? We're trying to compare density to density. We're not comparing density to a country. All right. So, these were all the comparisons. What all did we do today? Have a look. We looked at compare to, compare with. Then we looked at compared, the passive form of it, the same thing. Then we looked at in comparison to, in comparison with. Then we looked at draw a comparison or make a comparison. Then we looked at comparatives, higher, lower. With that, always use than. And the last one that we looked at here is with words like double, half, triple, etc. We always end up using that of, not double compared to. We always say double that of. Okay? Now is the most important part, the practice. So make sure that you're ready with your either fingers on the comments below or a pen and a paper. Let's get started. So the game is very simple. I'm going to show you 8 sentences. Let's have a look at 8 sentences one by one. We have to decide, is this sentence correct or incorrect? That's number one. And whichever is incorrect, we have to correct it together. Okay? So, number one, I will do for you. The rest of it, you have to try doing yourself. In the sense, pause the lesson, put your comments, put the correct answer in the comments below, or write it somewhere, and I will discuss it. Okay, here we go. Number one, This sentence, I can clearly see is incorrect. 66.6 million people traveled abroad in 2007, comparing to 64.6 million in 2006. We highlight, we highlighted this before. Comparing to is incorrect. We don't speak or write English like this. We say compared to 66.6 million in 2006. Gotcha? I'm now going to show you sentence number 2. Non smokers' risk of heart attacks is roughly half that of people who smoke. Which one do you think is right? Or is there something wrong with this sentence? There's nothing wrong with this sentence. This sentence is 100% correct. Okay? Sentence number 3. In comparative with other writers, she uses very simple everyday language. In comparative with? In the sentence, there's a problem with the second word. What do you think is the correct version? We say in comparison with. I repeat, in comparison with. Comparative and with do not go together. There's nothing, this, it is not a grammatically correct structure. In comparative with. Of course, I'm sure if you've been speaking all your life, you'd know that in comparative with does not mean anything. It is in comparison to or in comparison with. Sentence 4. Don't just watch, belong. Make sure that you're participating in this activity. And it's a very important recommendation because when you participate, you'll feel that the entire ball game has shifted. You'll see that you're an active participant in this lesson that's going on right now rather than just a passive watcher. All right? Just a passive viewer. So don't be a passive viewer, be an active participant. Okay, number 4. There's no comparison to watching a band on DVD and seeing them play live. So, if you can see, there are two things that we're comparing here. Now, watching a band on DVD and seeing them play live. There are two things that we are comparing, right? Do you remember I told you whenever we are comparing two things and in the phrase comparison, whenever we say there is comparison or there's no comparison, we end up using between rather than to. And that's exactly what the correct answer is as well, which is there's no comparison between watching. All right. If you'd like, take a screenshot of this because now we're going to be looking at the second part of it. Maybe you'll be able to use some of it in the second part, or maybe not. Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Number 6. Have a look. Number 5. The pass rate was over 70% in 2005, compare to 62% in 1990. The correct answer is compared to. Okay. Number 6. Many more crimes were committed by males compared to females. This sentence looks absolutely correct. Then what is the problem? The problem is committed by males compared to females. Big no. The correct version would be committed by males than by females. Many more crimes were committed by males than by females, and by here is the second by is optional. Okay, we do not say by males compared to females. We're already making the comparison in the beginning. We do not have to double it, so we end up using the word rather than. And why is that? The reason is because here is a comparative that we are using. Remember, I told you with comparatives, words like more or er, we end up using than. And this is such a classic mistake. Such a classic mistake. I've seen almost 90% of the people making this mistake incorrect. So the correct is than. If you've learned something new, make sure to like and subscribe in case you're watching the lesson for the first time. Welcome to our wonderful community wherein we keep on having live lessons almost every day, and at the same time keep uploading these wonderful lessons for you to watch almost any time that um, your time allows. Yeah. Number 7, here we go. The article draws a comparison between his writing and that of earlier authors. Hmm. Draws a comparison between, or make a comparison between. It is 100% correct. All right. And the last sentence is, here we go. Population growth is quite high in Madagascar at 3.31% when compared to Mauritius at 0.89%. What do you think? There is absolutely no difference in the answer. It is when compared to Mauritius here versus when compared to Mauritius here. No difference at all. It is correct as well. All right. Thank you very, very much. Now, in this lesson, we looked at 6 different types. Which one of these types do you think has impacted you or possibly made you learn something new? So tell me your takeaways in the comments below. And if you want extra practice of this lesson, it is available. Extra practice is available on our WhatsApp channel. The link of the WhatsApp channel is in the description below as well. There's another lesson that we'd made. When you're able to compare things, that's great. But it's also very important to know how do you use articles correctly. So we recently had a live lesson, and in case you want to understand how to use articles like a and the correctly, I recommend you watching this video. Very, very important. It'll help you understand and not make these silly mistakes when it comes to articles, definite, indefinite articles in English, ladies and gentlemen. All right. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. And in case you're new to our Cambridge Veritas family, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your colleagues. And I will see you guys in the next lesson. Until then, take care. God bless. Bye bye.